It's been 16 months since the despicable, cowardly murder and cover-up in Benghazi on September 11, 2012. To keep the truth from coming out regarding the murder of 4 Americans, including U.S. Ambassador Chris Stevens, the Obama administration went to great lengths to stonewall, to obfuscate, to just even silence into submission anyone who had any inside knowledge of the truth as to what happened at the scene, giving regular polygraphs. I think it was monthly polygraph tests to ask if they've talked to anybody or if they have any intentions of talking to anybody or anything like that. And that's extreme measures. It's very bizarre. And these are U.S. citizens working for the government that are being kept under wraps, shall we say. Seemingly intentionally out of the public eye, and which is similar to what happened at Benghazi. I mean, they had lack of security there. It seemed to be intentional. Let's look at it. At first, Obama called it a spontaneous uprising over a homemade video that was critical of Mohammed. He vehemently denied that it was premeditated or by Muslims, of course. And then the story changed again and again and again, ad nauseum. But the State Department now, for the first time, is telling us that they say, well, they actually are telling us half-truths, and they're, we'll just say they're trying to emphasize certain strategic portions of the truth. I mean, are you ready for this one? 1 year and 4 months after the fact, they now are saying the act was done by terrorists. I mean, what did it take them 16 months to figure that out for? And why didn't they just say that at the beginning? Whatever they knew from the very beginning, why are they releasing that information now? But that's a half-truth anyway. And a half-truth, as you know, is a whole lie. So to ignore the fact that Muslims are doing the murdering and to merely report it as terrorism, that's a lie. It's the same old lie. So we're back to business as usual, escalating the so-called war on terror. But that is an unwinnable war, as we know. I mean, you're fighting a tactic, not an enemy. Terror is a tactic. It is patently insane to wage a war on a tactic. So since clearly it's Muslims who are utilizing the tactic of terror, why aren't we fighting the Muslims? It's like saying in a war, we're going to shoot at their guns, but not shoot at them. I mean, or shoot at the ground they're walking on. Makes no sense. If Obama were to remain consistent and intellectually honest here, he'd have to wage civil war against himself, wouldn't he? Because he aids and abets terror tactics and terrorist regimes throughout the world, throughout the Middle East in particular, and he actually does the opposite thing that he's supposed to do. Wherever there's a secular leader, a non-Muslim, or a quasi-Muslim, where he's not really a devout kind, the kind that want to kill, he gets rid of them. He opposes the the so-called freedom fighters. He literally gives millions of dollars, or billions, whatever it is, to Al-Qaeda, another boogeyman name, and others that are just fighting in the name of Islam to overthrow the infidel half Muslims or whatever. So, and he uses the United States government assets and people to overthrow the regimes that aren't Muslim enough, and they put in the most radical and fundamentalist of Muslims they could find. So like in Egypt, they got rid of a nice ally of the country, as far as you cut them slack in the Middle East, an ally. But then who do they put in? The Muslim Brotherhood head, Mohammed Morsi. I mean, you don't get much more radical than that. So what was this grand announcement by the United States State Department? They announced finally that they identified the culprits of Benghazi attack. Drum roll, please. Rim shot. Where's the rim shot? The enemy is Ansar al-Sharia. Ansar al-Sharia, a new name here. We are told that this new Benghazi boogeyman is, and the members of this group are members of Ansar al-Sharia, who basically, by the way, are using the tactic, another drum roll please, you guessed it, boom. Where's my rim shot? Terror. That's the tactic they're using, terror. So let's fight that terror tactic. Not terrorism or terrorists. Let's fight terror. The tactic of terror. But the State Department's revelation still ignores the big Muslim pachyderm in the room. Islamic terrorists using the terror tactic. So here's an audio memo to the State Department of the United States. The enemy is neither terrorism, nor a tactic, nor any of its garden variety generic so-called terrorists. The enemy we're fighting is the enemy that's fighting us, and that enemy, pure and simple, is Islamic terrorists. Hello, get the memo? Islamic terrorists. Oh, but you might say, you're not being fair, or you're broad brushing the complex geopolitical theater. My response to that is to quote an old adage, quote, not all Muslims are terrorists, but all terrorists are Muslim. So, in the spirit of fairness, let's downgrade that adage to say only 99.999% of the terrorists are Muslim in this world. There still might be one or two holdouts from Ireland, the Irish Republican Army terrorists, maybe one's in a cave someplace, and who knows, he might come out one of these days and plot to use the tactic of terror. Of course, we can't wage a war against him, but we could wage a war against his tactic, terror and terrorism. Wow. So there you have it. We have a new boogeyman. The State Department is attempting to brand this boogeyman in our minds. Ansar al-Sharia. Let's hear that again. Ansar al-Sharia. Whoa, the new boogeyman. You know, this actually reminds me of a time when we were told of the first boogeyman. His name was Osama bin Laden. They spelled it differently. They pronounced it differently. Nobody really figured he'd be around long, kick around. Rumor had it that he had something to do with 9/11 and this and that. But once he outlived his usefulness, they need a new brand name. But if you recall with Osama bin Laden, they never found the body, did they? They didn't dare cut him up into pieces. They didn't dare claim victory as in prior wars. They didn't even do an autopsy. They didn't even bury him. Why? Because they were concerned that Muslims would be upset. The Muslim terrorists said they would be upset and they might do more terror if we would dare touch their holy man and put him on the ground. So what do? They disposed of the body at sea. They gave him a burial at sea and fed him to the sharks. Oh, that's a nice thing for Muslim adherents. That was okay, but the ground is not okay? I mean, come on. What kind of evidence are they trying to feed to sharks here? And get this. The administration of Obama is saying that Ansar al-Sharia is not affiliated at all with al-Qaeda. Ha! There you have it. They just said that. They keep coming up with imaginary names for groups that are supposedly separate from Islam. Oh, man, they wouldn't ever want to have connecting the dot party there, would they? Apparently, al-Qaeda is an old brand name, and they do need rebranding, as I said. So here's a news flash to all those Islamic terrorists that are part of the same club, Islam. Memo, they're all part of the same club, Islam. Hello? They got their marching orders from the so-called holy documents, and they're just doing what they believe they're supposed to do. Rape, maim, and kill. That's what it says between the Hadith and the Quran. So, I guess what most people don't really know is that it's Sharia law that's at war with the West. Those adherents of Sharia law. Sharia law basically is the core of Islam. And it says you have to convert or kill all the infidels, an infidel being a non-Muslim. The rare exception is they need some slaves. So Mohammed said, yeah, you could keep some of them as slaves, as long as you tax them to the hilt. That sounds like we're slaves in this country. Maybe that's where they got the idea from. But at any rate, in the big scheme of Sharia law and its command to kill and convert everybody else, even Osama bin Laden is a mere pawn. I mean, let's face it. This war against the tactic of terror is basically a war against ideology and the adherents to that ideology, except we won't admit it. And of course, our government leaders keep on going along with this charade. And their buddies in the reality impaired media, or like Time magazine, the truth impaired media elite, they're in lockstep saying, oh yes, whatever you say, yep, yep. It's just like visiting Castro at a press conference in Cuba. They're all scribbling something. They're going, okay, here we go. We'll scribble this, scribble that, and they call themselves reporters. They basically write what they're told to write. So they write what they're told to write in this country too. They broadcast what they're told to broadcast. And they just consistently prop up Islamic regimes, and they go to great lengths to protect the Muslim terrorists while throwing marshmallows, boom, 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 at the tactic of terror. So you see, in order for a big blow to government to get even bigger, they need an enemy from whom to protect us, to give us even bigger, badder government, to protect us even more from whatever new boogeyman they construct. Whatever the flavor of the week is. You pick a boogeyman. Maybe we could get it to catch on with YouTube as a viral boogeyman video. But there is one flavor that is never mentioned as the enemy, the true enemy. Actually, we are their enemy. We didn't make them our enemy. They made us their enemy. And that's Islam, particularly Sharia law adherents of Islam, particularly Sharia law adherents of Islam who use the tactic of terror to kill, to murder, to destroy. Is there a conspiracy of silence? You tell me, because none dare call it Islam. Now, this is the end of this video, but it doesn't have to be the end of our country. Call your congressman, call a friend, call a neighbor, call someone, do something, pick up the phone, email, tweet, do social media, do YouTube like this one. Hey, it doesn't cost me anything. I just talk, click upload, there it is. You could do the same thing. What if we had 2 million people doing that? And we storm Congress with emails and social media and exercise our First Amendment rights while it's there and stand up to the lies, especially the half-truths and the propaganda. Insist on the truth, crave the truth, and continually pray, 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 pray. And if enough people demand the truth from our leaders and pray fervently, by the grace of our Creator, we might finally just get it. The truth.